been a lot of coverage recently on things like Fox News about the January 6th and Jacob Chansley's part in that role as the QAnon Shaman, he's better known as, and highlighting the double standard that goes on with people such as Jacob Chansley walking in and getting escorted by the police versus some other people that were dressed as Trump supporters but had alternative intentions when they were going there. So this is the story of John Sullivan. He's a Utah man with history of organizing violent protests, being a large part of BLM here in Utah, where even BLM at some point had to kick him out of being a part of that group, which we see here. He tried to associate him as part of the BLM movement, but a lot of people in BLM said that he was an agent provocateur, con artist, thrill-seeking instigator, and he was quoted as saying, "Riots are meant to bring change, so purge the world with fire." And that was a tweet that he made not too long ago, repeatedly saying, "I'm not Antifa." This is both on Discord and in the media as well, him saying this, and the Discord specifically we're going to touch on next. So this is some media aggregation that was put up together by a local investigator here in Utah about Insurgents USA and the Discord in all, and kind of what was going on in these channels. So all the sources are going to be provided here, but here is his reporting persona, as he puts it, which is Jaden X. This is also John Sullivan. As you can see here, advertising to organize at the Washington Monument at 11 a.m. To fight the fascists, dump Trump for good. As you can see here, no fascists in DC, march against fascism. And you can see the dates here, 12/22/2020, right? So within this Discord, people were planning on either fighting the Trump supporters or using the Trump supporters' anger to try to do even more to the Capitol. So we're gonna get into this right here. So a lot of these tags here you can see are tagged with BLM, Antifa repeatedly. They have a bot in their Discord that kind of advertises these things before it happens, and as you can see here, as far as the Antifa chart allegations go, you can see here that someone's calling him out saying, apparently Rudy Giuliani mentioned your name on Steve Bannon's show today. Apparently it's proof, or apparently you're his proof of Antifa, basically is what he's saying. That Antifa was responsible, right? This is, WTF. He's going to be salty when I sue his ass. John Sullivan is your name, right? Yes. So here's him admitting it in Discord, basically, that this is his user. And we can see here, perfect scenario would be to use the right MAGA remnants like a rabid dog against the state. F those snitches who are licking boots for the feds. An angry base. All they need is a little push in the right direction. And this is precisely where provocateurs get involved with these kind of protests, is they will go behind the scenes and rile everybody up, acting as one of the supporters, which I'm going to pull up a picture here. And this is what I call the many faces of John Sullivan, right? So on the left we have him as he was dressed on January 6th as a Trump supporter. This is the same costume that he was wearing when he was filming the whole Ashley Babbitt shooting. A very viral video that went around of her actually getting shot. Yeah, he was the one who filmed that. He ends up getting paid by CNN for this, but in doing so also ends up incurring some charges because he had a fake press pass, right? So in the middle is his mugshot when he actually gets arrested and put in jail, where he served a little bit of time but was quickly released with a lot of fines, which I'm also going to cover here in a second. And then on the right is how he would usually present himself in Utah at any given BLM protests before January 6th. And this is usually the persona that he would carry out in most public settings. So this is a court filing that was done highlighting the release of funds back to the state, basically a forfeiture of money and property. And really what it is it comes down to this about $90,000 or about $91,000 that he had to end up paying back. And this wasn't all money that he made specifically from CNN. CNN, here we have this fact check, included about 35,000, but split between CNN and NBC, paid to Insurgents USA, which is an advocacy organization for the rights to the footage, according to the invoices filed by Sullivan's attorney in the U.S. District Court. It looks like Australian Broadcasting Corp also paid a little bit of money, about $2,000 for the footage. So that was part of what this includes, what had to be forfeited back. So ultimately, John Sullivan didn't actually make any money in the long run off of doing this filming. If anything, he lost more money in credibility and things like that. So we're going to get into this. Here's the actual affidavit that was given by an FBI agent in regards to John Sullivan's participation in January 6th, entering the restricted building or grounds, violent entry, disorderly conduct, and civil disorders. Basically just going into details about the dangers that John Sullivan presented in being in that location, which I'm going to highlight some of these. Here's some quotes from John Sullivan here. Was heard in the video, which was presented as evidence. We got to get this shit burned. It's our house, MFers. We are getting this shit. In addition to several times in the video, John Sullivan encounters law enforcement officers who are trying to prevent further advancement through the building by those who entered unlawfully. At least 2 encounters, Sullivan can be heard in the video arguing with the officers, telling them to stand down and they won't get hurt. Among other things, Sullivan can be heard telling officers, "You're putting yourself in harm's way, the people have spoken, and there are too many people, you gotta stand down." The people are out there that tried to do that shit, they got hurt, I saw it, I'm caring about you. And some more colorful language here coming from John Sullivan. And it reads here, based on publicly available information and information provided by Sullivan in the interview on January 7th, 2021, described further below, Sullivan is the leader of an organization called Insurgents USA, through which he organizes protests. And I want to cut away here and say that Insurgents USA, at least in Utah, if you're a local, even the BLM organizers consider this as an Antifa sect. But Antifa itself is such a nebulous term. It's kind of a blanket statement. And you can conveniently say you're not Antifa, but you're just anti-fascist in any given interview to kind of save yourself that, what would you say, the terrorist charges, or, you know, getting away from domestic terrorism basically by saying those kind of things. So some of the quotes here: we got to burn this shit down. We got to get Trump out of office. Fucking pull him out of that shit. We ain't waiting until the next election. We about to go get that MFer. And he's seen, you know, leading a crowd of chant and saying it's time for a revolution and things like that. And we see here's some social media of John Sullivan. I believe this is Facebook. With the tags Black Lives Matter, BLM, No Justice for Peace, ACAB, Antifa, and F the System, right? Another profile here. I believe this is also Facebook. Hashtag Antifa. Hashtag Antifa. And I don't know how else to take that. Again, it comes down to it's a nebulous term that you can conveniently use to rally people and other Antifa members in Utah. But then once you get charged and caught, you're just an anti-fascist. You're not part of you're not part of an Antifa organized group or chapter or anything like that. Even though everybody locally calls out your group Insurgents USA as Antifa and being too extreme for Black Lives Matter organizations in Utah as well. And some more Discord screenshots here. I'll be out there for sure, F them. They can catch a bullet if they try something. Kind of suggesting that he may be armed during the protest, but obviously he wasn't armed actually going there. We find out, as far as I've seen in the documents, I don't think he possessed a firearm in DC. But here we say, "You're an Antifa for the record. Jaden is my journalist alias, correct. He said something about your brother speaking out against you. He's putting out a video in a day, apparently. I'm anti-fascist." So there's that term again, you know, anti-fascist, Antifa. Either way, it's just anti-Trump, anti-police, closely aligned with the Black Lives Matter movement, but not quite so. And we have other people here saying they'll be down there getting footage and doing various activities. Sweet, let's do it. More highlighting FBI involvement here. some pressure, whether it's real or not. It's just social media, and we end here with he ended up plotting this and stirred up shit on the 6th. So there's definitely a move, at least online, in these insurgents groups, to be at the Capitol, to fight the quote-unquote fascists, which are the Trump supporters, and to make it so that Trump doesn't get elected or doesn't get any sort of legal relief, right? I guess just fighting the legal relief that he was seeking at the time. So we're gonna get more into Jacob Chansley here, right? So we see here in Jacob Chansley's CNN article that came out against him, sentenced to 41 months in prison for the role in the U.S. Capitol riot. And if you've seen some of the footage coming out from Tucker Carlson lately, showing a completely different story than John Sullivan, where he was basically shown being escorted by the police in a peaceful manner. He thanked the police when he was in the chamber for allowing them to be there. And here we see kind of how the prosecutors handle it is flag bearer of the mob, chaos, terrifying. He made himself the image of the riot, didn't he? Now, this is very important here. Making yourself the image of something is everything. It's all about optics. If you're pro-MAGA, have an American flag, and you present yourself as the image of the riot, then you can expect 41 months in prison and probably some hefty fines after that. I'm not sure exactly, but if you present yourself as either Antifa, BLM, anti-fascist, whatever you want to call it, and are continuously egging people on to go into the building, to burn down the building, to rile everybody up, you basically just get a $90,000 fine, which you already made $40,000 off of CNN, MSNBC anyway. So it's like more like half of that, and you get a slap on the wrist. And I want to jump back to this town hall article, which they do have a right-wing bias split among 12 different sources, right? So we're just going to roll with it. But this is Katie Pavlich with Town Hall Media, and I'm just going to kind of read through this. So this was having to do with a protest in Provo before January 6th, where a gentleman was shot by one of the people who was with John Sullivan at the time, who was coming out against these Trumpers as well. And I'll read it here. One of the organizers of the protest in Provo that resulted in a motorist being shot was arrested on Thursday. John Sullivan, 25, of Sandy, was booked in the Utah County Jail for investigation of rioting, making a threat of violence, criminal mischief, and honked their horns in support of law enforcement. I think this means they were coming out against those people. Another group planned a counter-protest at the same time and place on Facebook. Its event page was originally titled End Police Brutality, but was later changed to Marching for Racial Equality. The Facebook pages listed the event's hosts as the group's Insurgents, John Sullivan, Solidarity for Justice, and Salt Lake Equal Rights Movement, and the Salt Lake Anti-Fascist Coalition. Okay. As a protest organizer, John Sullivan is heard and seen as he's promoting protesters to block the roadways, keeping motorists from traveling lawfully and freely. John Sullivan is also captured on video threatening to beat a woman in an SUV, according to the affidavit, kicking the door and leaving a dent. He's also seen with Jesse Taggart, who is the man charged with shooting the motorist. Throughout the protest, the affidavit states, as a protest organizer, John Sullivan is heard talking about seeing the shooting, looking at the gun and seeing smoke coming from it. John did not condemn the attempted murder, nor attempt to stop it or aid in its investigation by the police. So we kind of get this background of who he was before the Capitol riot, and then we definitely have a background of Jacob Chansley and who he was before the riot. And there's definitely a double standard here. I mean, we're looking at a Navy veteran, from what I understand, who, maybe got involved in some QAnon websites and whatnot, but as far as I know, wasn't out there bashing people's cars or involved in any kind of violence beforehand. And of course, we're going to end on the mugshot of Jacob Chansley, who is still in prison, 41 month sentence. And with the new footage coming out, whether that's an appropriate sentence is really, I guess, up to you. I mean, we already have justice, I guess, being served, but I mean, you guys can make of it what you will. I would say get involved in Discord, get involved with these groups to capture these sort of plans. And really just practice some discernment. But this is my first video I've made, everybody, so I appreciate you making it this far if you have. Leave me comments of what I could do better, obviously. Leave me comments if you like the video. You know, do whatever you want. If you feel like sharing it, share it. If not, not. But I'm going to be publishing this on Substack as well with an article. I'm going to be on Odyssey, Rumble, different things like that as well. Not that I really have a preference right now, but I'm just kind of getting my foot in the water. And on top of this, there's going to be a lot more investigative work that's a lot more put together than this was. I kind of just put this together really quickly because all my previous files were corrupted, so apologize about that. But be on the lookout definitely for more of these kind of deep dives into peripheral issues that aren't really getting a lot of limelight. And yeah, thank you again moving forward, and I appreciate it. Goodbye.